Today we will delve into the journey of Nehemiah, a Jewish cupbearer to the Persian king Artaxerxes, who led the effort to rebuild Jerusalem's walls and restore the spiritual vitality of its people. Join us in exploring the inspiring story of Nehemiah, who transformed his vision of a renewed Jerusalem into reality. In 586 BC, the Babylonian Empire, under King Nebuchadnezzar, conquered Jerusalem. The city was destroyed, the temple burned, and many Jews were taken into captivity. This period, known as the Babylonian exile, saw the Jewish people scattered throughout the Babylonian Empire. Years later, the Babylonian Empire fell to the Persians, led by King Cyrus the Great. The Persian Empire, known for its relatively tolerant policies, allowed exiled peoples, including the Jews, to return to their homelands and rebuild their temples. Despite this, many Jews chose to remain in the Persian Empire, where they had established new lives. Among those who stayed was Nehemiah. Over time, Nehemiah distinguished himself through his loyalty, integrity, and competence, eventually rising to the position of cupbearer to King Artaxerxes. This was not merely a role of servitude, it was a position of great trust and influence, as he was responsible for tasting the king's wine to ensure it was not poisoned. Despite his high status and comfortable position in life in Susa, Nehemiah's heart remained deeply connected to Jerusalem. He maintained close ties with his fellow Jews and kept himself informed about the situation in his homeland. Before going deep into the video, please mention here, what is your homeland and where you are living now? And you can also mention how you are missing your homeland. One day, Nehemiah's brother Hanani and some men from Judah arrived with troubling news. The remnant there in the province who survived the captivity are in great distress and reproach, and the wall of Jerusalem is broken down and its gates are burned with fire, Hanani reported. Upon hearing this, Nehemiah was devastated. Hearing this news, Nehemiah was deeply troubled. Jerusalem was more than just a city to him. It was the spiritual and cultural heart of the Jewish people, the place where God's temple once stood. The broken walls symbolized not only physical devastation, but also a sense of disgrace and vulnerability for his people. Nehemiah's response was immediate and heartfelt. He wept, mourned, fasted, and prayed to God for several days. His prayer was one of deep repentance and earnest supplication, acknowledging the sins of Israel and pleading for God's mercy and intervention. His prayer is recorded in the Bible in 1st chapter. Nehemiah prayed to God, acknowledging his greatness and faithfulness. He confessed the sins of the Israelites, including his own and his family's, and reminded God of his promise to gather the exiled people if they returned to him. Nehemiah asked for God's attentive ear and favor, seeking success in his request to the king for permission to rebuild Jerusalem. Nehemiah's prayer was a turning point. With a heavy heart and a resolute spirit, he knew he had to act. His deep sorrow did not go unnoticed by the king. When Artaxerxes inquired about Nehemiah's sadness, Nehemiah courageously shared his burden and requested permission to return to Jerusalem to rebuild its walls. Remarkably, the king granted his request, providing not only permission but also letters for safe passage and resources for the rebuilding effort. Upon his arrival in Jerusalem, Nehemiah conducted a covert night inspection of the city's walls. This allowed him to assess the extent of the damage without drawing undue attention. He assessed the extent of the damage, formulating a strategic plan for reconstruction. This meticulous approach demonstrated his practical wisdom and deep commitment to the task. He formulated a comprehensive plan and then, with the inspiring words, Nehemiah rallied the leaders and citizens of Jerusalem. He shared his vision, bolstered by the support of King Artaxerxes, and the people responded with enthusiasm. "Let us start rebuilding," they declared, united in their resolve. However, Nehemiah's mission was fraught with opposition. Local leaders such as Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem plotted to attack and sabotage the rebuilding efforts. They mocked and ridiculed the builders, questioning their intentions and trying to sow doubt and fear. Nehemiah responded with wisdom and resolve. He stood firm and told, "The God of heaven will give us success. We, his servants, will start rebuilding. But as for you, you have no share in Jerusalem or any claim or historic right to it." Nehemiah's response was resolute and full of faith. He assured the people that their work was sanctioned by God and that their efforts would succeed despite the opposition. Nehemiah's organizational skills were key to the project's success. He assigned families and groups to work on specific sections of the wall, ensuring that each part was tackled efficiently. He also set up a system of defense against potential attacks, with some workers building and others standing guard. This strategic approach kept the builders motivated and protected, embodying a spirit of vigilance and determination. They worked with tools in one hand and weapons in the other, embodying a spirit of vigilance and determination. In addition to external threats, Nehemiah faced internal strife. He discovered that wealthy Jews were exploiting their poorer brethren through high-interest loans, leading to widespread poverty and distress. Nehemiah confronted these injustices head-on, demanding that the wealthy restore the properties and forgive the debts of their fellow Jews. His bold actions restored social justice and unity among the people, further strengthening their resolve. Despite the relentless challenges, the people of Jerusalem, under Nehemiah's steadfast leadership, completed the walls in an astonishing 52 days. This achievement was not just a feat of engineering, but a testament to their collective effort and faith in God's providence. The completion of the walls marked a significant turning point, providing security and a renewed sense of identity for the Jewish community. When all our enemies heard about this, all the surrounding nations were afraid and lost their self-confidence because they realized that this work had been done with the help of our God. Nehemiah 6:16. Following this physical restoration, Nehemiah, together with Ezra the scribe, led a spiritual revival. They gathered the people and read aloud from the law of Moses, renewing their covenant with God. "The joy of the Lord is your strength," Nehemiah encourages them. The people celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles with great joy, recommitting themselves to live according to God's commandments. The Israelites gather for a solemn assembly, fasting, wearing sackcloth, and confessing their sins. They recount God's faithfulness throughout their history and renew their commitment to follow His ways. This is a powerful reminder of the importance of confession and worship in maintaining a right relationship with God. The people make a binding agreement, sealed with the signatures of their leaders, priests, and Levites. They pledge to follow God's law, observe the Sabbath, and support the temple and its services. This covenant renewal signifies their collective commitment to live as God's people. To ensure Jerusalem's security and vitality, Nehemiah organizes the repopulation of the city. He casts lots to determine which families will move into Jerusalem, while others remain in the surrounding towns. This strategic move helps to strengthen and stabilize the city. Nehemiah organizes a grand dedication ceremony for the completed wall. With choirs, musicians, and the people rejoicing, they march around the wall, giving thanks to God for His provision and protection. In the final chapter, Nehemiah enforces further reforms to ensure the spiritual and moral integrity of the people. He discovers and corrects abuses in the temple, reinstitutes the Sabbath, and addresses intermarriage with foreign nations. Nehemiah's dedication to God's laws and his tireless efforts to maintain the purity of the community highlight his commitment to lasting spiritual renewal. The book of Nehemiah is a profound narrative of faith, leadership, and the power of community. Through prayer, perseverance, and unwavering trust in God, Nehemiah not only rebuilt the physical walls of Jerusalem, but also restored the spiritual foundation of its people